substantial number of proposed initiatives and projects exceeding 1 billion Omani Riyals. The value of industrial projects with usufruct rights at the Special Economic Zone in Duqm reaches more than 11 billion Omani Riyals until the start of this year. More than 3,000 male and female job seekers are to proceed tomorrow for tests and interviews. Credit balance granted by banking sector in the Sultanate increases to about 24 billion Omani Riyals. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in detail. In line with the Sultanate's vision to promote for diversified economy, energy and minerals, Discussion Labs concluded their work with a substantial number of proposed initiatives and projects. Energy Labs focused on 4 themes: electricity, alternative energy sources, natural gas, management and energy sector governance. The participants proposed 14 projects that will increase electricity efficiency by 11% by the year 2023. They also came up with the 4 relevant initiatives like switching to gas instead of diesel, drafting detailed standard for gas supply, and a national strategy for energy sector and establishing connectivity networks to increase power efficiency and coverage. On the other hand, Mineral Labs reviewed metallic and non-metallic minerals, laws and regulations, and the available opportunities. They proposed 43 projects and initiatives with estimated value of 797 million Omani Riyals, which the private sector will cover 99%, and the government will establish the necessary infrastructure and facilities for the sector. The Mineral Labs estimated that their contributions to the gross domestic product will increase by 3-folds and will create 1,660 direct job opportunities by the year 2023. The Mineral and Energy Labs recommends and proposed initiatives and projects will be measured and followed up through the years by a joint committee comprising of stakeholders from both private and public sectors. The value of industrial projects which earned usufruct at Special Economic Zone in Duqm has reached more than 11 billion Omani Riyals until the beginning of this year. Duqm Economic Magazine mentioned the highlight projects are Duqm Refinery, Petrochemical Industries Complex, which their estimated cost reached around 6.5 billion Omani Riyals. Omani Chinese Industrial City came as second with a value of more than 4 billion Omani Riyals, in addition to 85 various industrial projects with a total cost of 534 million Omani Riyals. The Special Economic Zone Authority specified an area of 177 square kilometers to settle industrial activities within a number of industrial areas in line with requirements of major companies which want to get land pieces for their projects. 3,212 Omani male and female job seekers will, as of tomorrow, head to private companies and establishments in a number of the Sultanate's governorates. They will conduct employment tests and interviews as summoned by the Ministry of Manpower, which published their names last Thursday. The job seekers were summoned by the ministry to benefit from the available job opportunities in continuation of gathering all efforts to employ the youth. Though 25,000 job seekers were employed during the past 5 months as part of the We Work program, in cooperation with the various public and private institutions. Credit balance granted by banking sector in the Sultanate has increased to about 24 billion Omani Riyals in the end of last February, recording a growth of 7.3%. Central Bank Oman said that the credit granted for a private sector recorded a growth of 6% to reach 21 billion Omani Riyals, pointing that acquisition of the non-financial sector reached 46.2% of credit, followed by individual sector with slight difference. The bank mentioned in its report that recently conducted amendments of regulations boards which controlled banking activities, aiming to raise the level of available liquidity and credit, will contribute in finding environment for business and enhancing percentages of growth in the economy. The Omani delegation, headed by the chairman of the Public Authority for Civil Aviation, Dr. Mohammed bin Nasser Al-Zabi, participated in the second session in the Council of Arab Ministers responsible for the meteorological and climate, which was held in the Arab League headquarters in Cairo. The meeting discussed the integrated strategy for services, its executive plan and means to develop information management on severe weather hazards. The Arab ministers also reviewed means to develop cooperation with other relevant international and regional weather organizations, such as the World Meteorological Organization. Still to come in our news bulletin. Al Hammam Hot Spring is a touristic destination where the temperature reaches up to 100 degrees Celsius. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Palestinian representative to the United Nations has called the violence on the Gaza border a massacre yesterday. Speaking at the UN headquarters in New York, Riyad Mansour demanded independent investigations into the continuing border violence. Mansour said they would be exploring all of their options in persuading the UN Security Council to act. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights urged Israel yesterday to refrain from using excessive force against Palestinians, as hundreds gathered near the Gaza-Israel border for a fifth round of weekly protests. But Zaid Ra'ar al-Hussein said Israeli troops have not heeded the warnings by the United Nations and others, repeatedly using lethal forces against unarmed protesters over the past month. Since the weekly marches began, 35 Palestinians have been killed and more than 1,500 wounded by Israeli soldiers firing from across the border fence. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said today that Moscow is concerned about calls to review the Iran nuclear deal during a meeting with his Iranian counterpart. Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said Tehran planned to continue cooperation with Moscow in implementing the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on Iran's nuclear program. US President Donald Trump has threatened to withdraw from the deal. Lavrov and Zarif met on the sidelines of a trilateral meeting between the Russian, Iranian and Turkish top diplomats in Moscow. Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said Southeast Asia countries are working closely with new powers like China and India to counter the pressure of protectionism and ensure continued growth. This is because the strategic balance of power has shifted both globally and in the region, he noted at the opening of the 32nd Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit today. Lee said that regional economic growth was under threat because the political mood in many countries had turned against free trade. He said that recent trade tensions between the US and China in particular are worrying concerns. Last month, President Donald Trump ordered huge tariffs on Chinese imports to the US, including aluminium and steel. China responded with a list of US goods that may be hit with higher import duties. Russia's controversial floating nuclear power plant has headed out on its first sea voyage. The academic Lomonosov was towed today out of the St. Petersburg shipyard where it was constructed. It is said to be towed through the Baltic Sea and around the northern tip of Norway, where its reactors are to be loaded with nuclear fuel. It is to be put into service in 2019 in the Arctic, providing power for port town and for oil rigs. The shipbuilders claim it is the first of its kind. The project has been widely criticized by environmentalists. Greenpeace has dubbed it a floating Chernobyl. Back to some more local news. The Armed Forces Medical Service held this morning a symposium to discuss updates on management of cerebral palsy. The symposium, which was held at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Medina Al Irfan, included 3 sessions delivered by a number of specialized therapists from different healthcare institutions in the Sultanate. More details in the following report by Captain Saeed bin Yahya Al-Amri.
With the participation of more than 100 therapists, pediatricians, nurses and healthcare providers, the Armed Forces Medical Services, represented by the Hospital of the Armed Forces, held a symposium to discuss the updates on management of cerebral palsy.
The Armed Forces Medical Services has been organizing series of events. Today's event is a symposium about cerebral palsy. Care for cerebral palsy is usually a multidisciplinary teamwork, And today's symposium aims to give updates and put hands together to give the best care for these patients.
This first national symposium provided a comprehensive opportunity for multidisciplinary professionals involved in the treatment of children with cerebral palsy to share research and evidence-based interventions.
The update on management of cerebral palsy children is the first its kind symposium in the country. It's held and organized by the Armed Forces Medical Services in collaboration with other health institutions in the country like Sultan Qaboos University Hospital, the Royal Hospital, and Khola Hospital, and is being participated by a faculty coming from different specialty like pediatricians, pediatric orthopedic surgeons, and rehabilitation medicine like occupational therapy, physiotherapy, prosthetic and orthotic, and speech therapy.
The target audience were orthopedic surgeons, pediatricians, family physicians, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, orthotists, speech and language therapists, nurses, and other healthcare providers.
We would like to extend our appreciation to the Armed Forces Medical Services for organizing such an event, which is considered to be the first symposium within the country.
The Symposium of Updates on Management of Cerebral Palsy was held by the Armed Forces Medical Services under the framework of boosting the theoretical and practical capabilities and skills of the healthcare faculty working in this field. Captain Saeed bin Yahya Al-Amri, Muscat.
More than 140 participants attended the third National Symposium on Updates in Laboratory Medicine. The symposium was concluded today in Sur Hospital after it discussed 6 important papers about medical laboratory profession updates. More details in the following report by Sultan bin Saif Al Sarai.
The latest updates on medical laboratory were discussed here in the third National Symposium on Updates in Laboratory Medicine, which attracted big number of specialists in the medical laboratory profession. This event came to find new and fast procedures as well as new technologies and professional cadre to guarantee better and accurate diagnosis.
Sur Hospital, represented by Department of Laboratory Medicine, have organized the third National Symposium in Updates in Laboratory Medicine. It have collected eminent speakers elaborating in the latest improvements and advances in methods and procedures in doing laboratory tests for the better and faster diagnosis of the diseases, so it will lead to early treatment, monitoring and intervention for our patient.
The symposium included a number of lectures and workshops that highlighted the latest studies and discoveries in the medical laboratory profession, which led to information and experiences exchanged among participants to ensure safer life for patients. Other significant topics were also discussed in the gatherings, such as bone marrow transplant in Oman, safety aspects in blood transfusions, biochemistry, as well as antimicrobial therapy to aware the society more about such practices. Sultan bin Saif Al Sarai, Wilaya of Sur, South Al-Sharqiyya Governorate.
The evaluation team on ensuring tax exemption to industrial establishments started their visit for the year 2018. The team was formed by a ministerial decision from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The team conducted supervision and monitoring operations on industrial establishments, which has tax exemptions for the imports, and made reports on the site visits in addition to studied the exemption criteria and prepared suggestions which are considered the government's vision to activate the wheel of economy forward. The Arab Deaf Week was marked in the Governorate of Bahrain with various activities. Different bodies from inside and outside the Sultanate took part in the event, which was organized by the Oman Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Bahrain. The activities included a seminar on challenges facing the employment of the deaf in the marketplace, showcasing the experience of an Emirati establishment in this field. An exhibition was also held by some private establishments displaying their job opportunities for the disabled people. Al Hammam Hot Spring in the Wilayat of Bashir is a very unique place in the Governorate of Muscat. It is distinguished with its high temperature water and traditional lifestyle around the area. The spring irrigates around 41 farms in Al Hammam village. It has eye-catching natural scenes and it is surrounded by high mountains. It combines the traditional architecture and the modern one in its buildings. Al Hammam village can be reached through the road of Al Ansab passing through Sanab village. Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low cloud and fog late at night and early morning over the governorates of South Sharqiya, Dhofar and Wusta. Winds will be south to southwesterly light to moderate and seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 metre. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. As part of the Sultanate's plan to enhance economic diversification, energy and mineral laboratories concluded their work with a substantial number of proposed initiatives and projects exceeding 1 billion Omani riyals. The value of industrial projects with usufruct rights at the Special Economic Zone in Deccan reaches more than 11 billion Omani riyals until the start of this year. More than 3,000 male and female job seekers are to proceed tomorrow for tests and interviews. Credit balance granted by banking sector in the Sultanate increases to about 24 billion Omani riyals. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsrooms and the studio, it's good night.